scribblers would fairly swoon as they filled their columns with the kind of fawning attention to detail that would make their readers think they had been there. The charity Christmas party was such an event that every year brought rumors that certain unexplained deaths among the affluent class had actually been suicides over being left off the guest list. The night had brought a bustle of excitement that rippled in and out of the heavy front doors with the guests dressed to the nines, the women a-glitter in gems and swathed in gowns from the Davison and Neiman stores, and the gentlemen stiff in tuxedos of inky black. Music from an 8-piece orchestra was barely audible over all the gay chatter and clinking of glasses. Outside, a line of automobiles stretched along the Euclid Avenue and Elizabeth Street curbs in 4 directions. There was not a single Model T in their number. Indeed, it appeared that a parade of luxury models had come to a stop. Duesenbergs, Wintons, Chryslers, Whippets, Cords, and a dozen other marks, their nameplates basking in the glow of the streetlights. Chauffeurs were de rigueur, of course, and so Negroes in fancy livery stood around stamping their feet and clapping their gloved hands against the cold. Every few minutes, a pint bottle of homemade whiskey would appear, make a round, and go back into hiding. Local wags would note that half the automobiles had either been parked there purely for show or had owners who were impossibly lazy, as their homes were within a few minutes' stroll. Inside the house, it was such a hectic event, with so much frantic activity that no one paid attention when one of the colored maids passed a slip of paper to another, who gave it a quick read, and with an absent smile folded it into her apron pocket. The second maid, dark-skinned and sharp-featured, made her way to the door that led from the bustling, overheated kitchen to the basement stairs. Keeping her face intent, as if on a pressing errand, she stepped through the door and closed it behind her. She lingered in the basement only a minute and was not missed. The party bubbled merrily on until the stroke of midnight, when tradition demanded a toast. This year, the glasses were raised to the great city of Atlanta, to those upstanding citizens who had made such generous donations to the Christmas Fund, surpassing the previous years, and finally to new Mayor John Sampson for his exemplary efforts in maintaining their safety and protecting their interests. With that, the couples in their tuxedos and furs began to take their leave. The foyer rang with hearty farewells as the guests went out the door and down the walk to their waiting automobiles. It was when the last of the wraps were being collected from the second floor that Mrs. Charles Payne stepped into the master bedroom and noticed a zebra wood jewelry box that had no business being out sitting atop the dressing table. Lifting the lid, she found it empty, cleaned of a half-dozen pieces of her best jewelry. She let out a gasp and called faintly, then louder, and one of the maids ran down the hall and down the stairs to fetch her husband. Chapter 2. The crack of the pistol echoed and died, and the gray wisp of smoke from the barrel drifted up into the December night. Officer J.R. Logue stared open-mouthed and bleary as the body folded and collapsed onto the cold sidewalk. He had never shot a man before. It wasn't that hard. He rolled that curiosity through in his addled brain as he turned around and stumbled into the darkness of Gilmer Street. In the silent wake of the shot, little Jesse Williams lay on the hard concrete waiting for the angels or blue devils to come claim his bad luck soul. When a tortured minute went by and none appeared, he managed to crawl across the rough concrete to the facade of the Hong Luen Laundry and, with a jagged groan, propped himself against the bricks next to the door, his numb legs stretched out before him. The slug had gone through his coat, vest, and shirt and settled like a hot stone below his ribcage. He watched with dull eyes as the blood dribbled out to pool in his lap and then trailed onto the sidewalk. Though he had guessed it might someday come to this, he'd always imagined it would be some big-legged woman's jealous husband rather than a drunken, red-necked cop who ended it. That part was his fault. He had played a bad hand.